The story kicks off with our hero declaring that the Empire despised him, and the Duke acts as if he's already 6 feet under. Confident in his goal, he promised to become an alchemist and create something that would change the world. The story then shifts to the house of Duke Regis, where Thor is informed by his father that he will be sent as a hostage to another country. This news devastates Thor, who is just reunited with his father after 3 years, only to be cast away once more. The Duke coldly states that the carriage has already arrived, making Thor's presence unnecessary. Confused and desperate for an explanation, Thor demands to know why he is being exiled. His father simply replies that he is useless. Laughter erupts from the gathered crowd, mocking Thor's misfortune. He bitterly wonders why he ever expected anything different and reflects that he should have severed ties with his family long ago. At 13, he had left home, determined to live as a commoner and never return. For 3 years, he worked hard in a humble dwelling. But one day, a soldier from his family came to fetch him. Without question, Thor followed, only to be brought before his father to hear this cruel decree. Growing impatient, the Duke repeats that Thor has no combat skills and is therefore worthless to the family. Stunned, Thor turns to the captain of the knights, asking if they ever appraised him for any abilities. The captain smirks, recalling that when Thor was 10, he was taken to a temple for evaluation. The results showed he had no combat potential. Given that Thor was the eldest son of the Duke, this was seen as a serious problem. Another man, wearing a monocle, interrupts, adding that Thor was re-evaluated at 12. This time he was found to have a minor magical skill, but it was non-aggressive. With a sneer, the man declares Thor a disappointment. The crowd jeers, showering him with contempt. The Duke sighs deeply, his disappointment evident. He reminds Thor that their bloodline is renowned for its extraordinary martial prowess. As the eldest son, he was meant to inherit this legacy, but he lacks both martial skills and offensive magic. Their family has long served as vessels of the Empire's strength. His grandfather was a sword saint. The Duke's voice rises in fury as he asks if Thor understands the shame of a father burdened with such a useless child. Thor shudders, grasping the harsh reality faced by those without combat skills in a world where strength is everything. The Dulgarian army only knows one way to conquer new lands: brute force. The Emperor, who used to be a warrior of great renown before trading his sword for a crown, has fostered a culture where everyone from nobles to commoners worships the art of war. In this dog-eat-dog world, being born with natural combat ability is a must for nobles. Those who can't cut it are quickly shown the door. With a cold tone, our MC admits that he does not know how to fight, but he stammers that he is an alchemist. He clarifies that his alchemy can be useful for repairing and maintaining equipment. Currently, he is responsible for managing supplies at the government office. If he continues to refine his craft, he believes he can create something of value. He intends to save money and establish his own workshop. His words enrage the Duke, who slams his hand on the table, shattering it. Furious, he commands Thor to be silent and declares his alchemy worthless, rendering him speechless. His father ridicules his ambitions, scoffing that the Empire already possesses sacred swords and shields wielded by heroes. They already have the strongest weapons. Why would they need anything from a lowly alchemist? With an icy glare, the Duke announces that Thor will be sent as a hostage. The decision is final. Clenching his fists, Thor steadies himself and asks where he is being sent. Barely containing his rage, the Duke replies that it is a dangerous place. Confused, Thor demands clarification. His father grimly explains that all hostages sent there are never seen again. No one has ever returned. Thor blinks in disbelief and asks if this place is the land of the Demon King. His father praises his deduction but falls silent for a moment, his expression darkening. He admits that even thinking about that place fills him with dread, so much so that he sometimes wishes for death rather than confronting it. Unmoved by his father's fear, Thor struggles to comprehend why he is being sent to the Demon King's territory. He questions aloud how such an arrangement could even exist. In a fatherly lecture, he outlined the Empire's need to confront the looming danger of demons and demi-humans invading human territories. In an unfortunate twist, the demons have a rather menacing request for a sacrificial offering every few decades. The wise gentleman with his monocle throws shade at the demons and labels them as ruthless beasts who prove their might by wiping out mankind. Thor turns to the crowd, his expression incredulous, and asks if they are serious, if he is truly being offered as a sacrifice. With no sympathy, his father tells him to leave if he has nothing more to say. Then with sudden brutality, he punches Thor in the stomach. Thor collapses, coughing and groaning, and weakly asks why he must be treated this way. His father merely replies that their business is finished. Forcing a faint smile, Thor declares his disdain towards the Duke. His father, cold and unmoved, replies in an icy tone, "I do not speak with dead men. With that, he is banished from human territory, left to reflect on the grim fate awaiting him in the Demon King's land, a place ruled by humanity's sworn enemies. As he sets off, his mind lingers on the dark history of this territory. Hundreds of years ago, demons and humans waged war for control of the land. The Demon King, with his formidable army, invaded human territory. In response, humanity summoned a hero from another world to fight back. Though the Demon King's forces were strong, the hero proved to be their equal. In time, the hero emerged victorious, pushing the Demon King and his armies back into their domain. Since then, both races have resided in their own territory, and the Demon King's forces have remained relatively quiet. Yet it is said that their hatred for humanity has never faded. Thor cannot see anything outside the carriage due to the wooden boards covering the windows. Surrounding him are 20 guards, including several cavalry soldiers. He understands that even if he tries to escape, he will be easily caught. This is precisely why he never wanted to get involved with the Duke again. Thor had thought he had already severed all ties with the Duke's household. He recalls taking the examination to join the government's office, abandoning his family name in the process. Since then, he has been in charge of organizing files and repairing or mending various items. In the Empire, a civilian official was a position reserved for those who could not become adventurers or soldiers. He remembers how others always despised and looked down on him because of his station. His pay was meager, yet he took pride in his job and worked diligently. He valued the chance to put his alchemy skills to full use in his work. A vivid memory surfaces of him repairing a magic sword. He had been determined to make it perfect, but now it seems he will never get the chance to complete it. His father's word echoes in his mind, causing him to grit his teeth in frustration. He reaches into his pocket and retrieves some spoons standard issued for soldiers. Activating his alchemy skill, he melts the spoons and reshapes them into a weapon. Behold his magical skills, effortlessly conjuring new objects from ordinary materials. He yearns to establish his own workshop someday. Feeling jittery, he reminds himself he can't kick the bucket just yet. But before he can dwell on it, a soldier yells a warning about nearing the Demon King's turf. Now that's a party you wouldn't want to crash. The carriage door creaks open and a shaft of light pours in. A guard orders Thor to step outside. As he complies, he is struck by the sight before him. The road from Teikoku comes to a sudden halt, marking the edge of human territory. Thor glances at the dense, shadowy forest stretching ahead, realizing it must be the border between the human and demon realms. Turning to the soldiers, he demands answers. Who will he be handed over to? Who's coming to retrieve him? Their hesitation only fuels his frustration, and he presses further. Do they truly have no idea? One soldier, avoiding his gaze, orders the others to ready their bows. Arrows streak into the forest, and from the rustling shadows, figures begin to emerge, demi-humans. Among them stands a young girl. Thor's eyes lock onto her as she remains eerily silent. He stands there, eyes popping out of their sockets like a cartoon character as he notices a minotaur for the first time. Is that a girl with pointy ears? Could she be an elf? Meanwhile, the soldiers around him are shivering in their boots at the sight of these demi-humans. Thor boldly strides forward, completely ignoring the guard trying to halt his progress. He's all about making a grand entrance, announcing himself as a member of the Dulgarian Empire with all the swagger he can muster. Deep down, he's doing mental calculations on how to pull off a daring escape. Catching them off guard seems like his best bet. And just when he thinks things can't get any weirder, the elf girl, Mabel, as she calls herself, welcomes him with surprising politeness. Turns out she's there to escort him on behalf of the Demon King. The Minotaurs inform Mabel that the path ahead is treacherous and advise her to be cautious. She thanks them, but suddenly the floor cracks beneath her feet, and she slips. Thor swiftly catches her, but in the process her pendant slips from her neck and falls to the ground. The Minotaur looks alarmed, and Mabel asks if it got caught in the tree. The Minotaur apologizes, but she reassures him, saying the pendant's chain was already damaged. The Minotaur then notes that the pendant was a gift from her mother. Mabel glances at it with a sorrowful expression and replies that it's all right. Thor, noticing her worry, offers to repair it. He mentions that if the chain is broken, he has experience fixing such things. Puzzled, Mabel asks if he is a craftsman. Thor hesitates, recalling that during his time in the Empire, he never referred to himself as an alchemist. The only tasks he performed with alchemy were repairing items, and no alchemy workshop had ever been established or even requested there. However, he wonders what might happen if he becomes an alchemist in the Demon King's territory. After some deliberation, he admits that he is an alchemist and asks if she would allow him to repair the pendant. The demi-humans watch intently, and Mabel hesitates before asking if it's truly okay to make a request, even though she is not human. Thor smiles warmly and reassures her that it doesn't matter. She then reveals that the pendant given to her by her mother is incredibly dear to her. If he can fix it, she urges him to do so. Smiling, Thor takes the pendant and sits down. Activating his alchemy skill, he begins by using appraisal, which displays all the intricate details of the pendant. He quickly grasps its structure and realizes that while only the chain is broken, there are many unknown components. Nonetheless, he believes it's possible to create metal imbued with water attributes using magic. Thor activates material alchemy, utilizing earth magic to create metal. This skill, achieved through one's magical power, allows him to repair the pendant. To his amazement, the process is a success. The Minotaurs are stunned, marveling at how the pendant became functional again with only magical power. Mabel gazes at the pendant in shock, while Thor, equally surprised, contemplates the power of creative alchemy. He informs her that he managed to fix it but admits it's only a quick repair. He advises her to have a professional craftsman examine it later. As Mabel holds the pendant, she tries to speak but struggles to find the words. Confused, Thor addresses her. Shaking, she starts to call him a messenger but corrects herself, addressing him by his name instead. With tears in her eyes and a smile on her face, she thanks him for restoring her mother's treasured pendant. Thor wonders if she truly likes it and expresses his relief, saying he's glad to help. The crowd around them erupts in praise for Thor, leaving him bewildered. They comment on how fortunate they are to have such a remarkable individual among them. Thor, overwhelmed, realizes it is the first time anyone has shown him such gratitude for his alchemy skills. He recalls how his abilities were undervalued in the Empire and how his father despised him. For the first time, he questions whether this feeling of helping others is what truly matters. With tears in his eyes, he feels a profound sense of fulfillment and gratitude for being in this place. Thor then reflects on a story he once heard about an ordinary alchemist who created magic weapons before the heroic era. He wonders if that alchemist, too, had been driven by the desire to bring joy to others through their creations. Mabel interrupts his thoughts, reminding him to simply call her Mabel. Thor smiles, thanking her while saying her name, and she winks at him, calling his name in return. This marks the beginning of Thor's new life as an alchemist. Thor is sitting in the carriage, peeking out the window, contemplating whether they've stumbled into demon turf. A wide meadow sprawls in front of him, with a mighty river snake dancing through the scenery. Boats sail by, guided by fishy folks busting their fins to keep things afloat. Surveying the busy sight, Thor can't help but notice the eclectic mix of demi-humans, a real eye-opener compared to the Empire's Hersey. The Demon King's territory had always been depicted as a land of chaos, where stepping foot inside would surely lead to attacks by beasts or kidnappings. However, the reality before him tells a different story, one of calm and ordinary life far more peaceful than the Empire. Mabel, seated across from him, explains that the people of the demon realm must work diligently, as the population here is sparse. Thor nods in understanding, though he catches her thoughtful gaze lingering on him. Curious, he asks if she was referring to him just now. She affirms the smile, leaving him puzzled. Thor recalls his status as a hostage sent from the Empire, and he questions whether others had previously ventured into demon territory. He inquires about their fates. Mabel pauses, considering his question carefully. She eventually reveals that the last visitor from the Empire arrived 50 years ago, long before her birth. She explains that the man eventually returned to the Empire. Thor reflects on her words and comes to a realization. Within the Demon King's domain, those who arrive from the Empire are treated as guests. However, the Empire perceives them as hostages or sacrifices, assuming they either attempt to escape or vanish. In truth, many ignore orders and remain in the demon territory, failing to report back. This misunderstanding leads to their classification as missing. Mabel's expression softens as she turns to him, her eyes searching his face. She quietly asks if he plans to leave the Demon King's land. Thor, caught off guard, meets her gaze. Gently, she takes his hand in hers, her voice earnest as she tells him there is no alchemist like him in the entire territory. She pleads with him to stay, promising to help him build a comfortable life. Thor sees the worry in her expression and smiles reassuringly. He explains that he initially came to foster peace between the Empire and the Demon King's land. At first, he entertained thoughts of escaping, intending to secure an escape route upon reaching the castle. However, with his freedom unrestricted, such a plan now seems unnecessary. Mabel was the one who gave him the chance to call himself an alchemist, and through her he rediscovered the joy of practicing his craft. The thought of causing her sadness weighs on him. With quiet conviction, he promises to do whatever he can for this country during his stay. Mabel's cheeks flush with happiness, and she gratefully thanks him for his kindness. Her excitement bubbling over as she informs him that they will arrive at the castle within half an hour. She warns him that once they arrive, he must meet the Demon King and advises him to be prepared. Thor's thoughts shift toward the Demon King. Though Mabel and the Minotaurs have been warm and welcoming, he knows nothing about the Demon King's temperament. He muses that living peacefully in this land depends largely on the ruler's disposition. Before long, the carriage reaches the castle. Thor steps out and bows respectfully, nerves stirring within him. Maid offers a reassuring smile. The guards promptly announce the arrival of Demon King Rookie Everguard. The Demon King approaches, his commanding presence unmistakable. His eyes settle on Thor, and he speaks, asking if Thor is the guest from the Empire. Introducing himself as Demon King Rookie, he waits for Thor's response. Our lad quickly mirrors the gesture, introducing himself in turn. He stands before the Demon King, expressing his pleasure at the meeting. The Demon King wastes no time, inquiring about Thor's abilities. He remarks that if Thor has been dispatched from the Empire, it must signify that he possesses valuable skills and knowledge. Thor, feeling a wave of nervousness, meets the Demon King's gaze and hesitantly replies that he practices alchemy. Before his arrival, Thor had contemplated his position, realizing that since he is regarded as a guest rather than a hostage, he must negotiate carefully. If the Demon King intends to utilize his skills, Thor speculates that he might be hired as an alchemist. Intrigued by this revelation, the Demon King listens closely. Prime Minister Curve, standing nearby, interjects, explaining that alchemy is an unfamiliar art in the demon territory. The very notion of alchemy, he adds, paints the Empire as a formidable nation if they possess enough alchemists to send one to the demon realm. Thor, suppressing his unease, reflects inwardly, reminding himself that alchemists are considered insignificant and unnecessary in the Empire. The Demon King resumes the conversation, suggesting that they prepare a workshop for Thor, allowing him the freedom to pursue his craft as he sees fit. Thor, taken aback, cautiously asks if this implies that the Demon King is hiring him. The Demon King affirms this, prompting Thor to ask about the conditions and requirements for working as an alchemist. Momentarily stunned by how easily the exchange unfolds, he requests that his living quarters be near the workshop. Without hesitation, the ruler agrees and inquires if anything else is needed. Thor was pleasantly surprised when the king told him to simply list the things he needed for alchemy. It was like, hey, just jot down what you need and we'll make it happen. Thor couldn't believe how easy it was, but wait, there's more. The king went on to say, hey, just do your thing, and if it works out, we'll make a bunch to help out the kingdom. Acknowledging the proposal, Thor hesitates before voicing a lingering question. His host, sensing the uncertainty, invites him to speak freely. With curiosity lacing his voice, he asks why such generosity is being extended. Gratitude aside, he struggles to understand why a stranger from the Empire would be met with such kindness. The Demon King's response is simple. He does it to learn. Thor furrows his brow in confusion, prompting the Demon King to elaborate. He recounts the history of the demon's defeat at the hands of human wisdom and the heroes from another world. Hundreds of years ago, humans summoned heroes to confront the powerful demons. These heroes, armed with extraordinary skills, fought relentlessly for humanity. Their pursuit of strength grew so intense that it instilled fear in the demons. The heroes viewed battle with demons as a means to grow stronger, improving their skills and increasing their levels. Over time, the heroes' obsession with power influenced the humans of this world, shaping the Empire's belief that strength was paramount. Ultimately, the heroes triumphed over the demons, driving them to the northern lands. Satisfied with his victory, the hero eventually returned to his world. Although hero summoning ceased, the knowledge and artifacts left behind by the hero persisted to this day. Thor, recalling the legend, remarks that it dates back 200 years. The Demon King, undeterred by the passage of time, dismisses the relevance of its age. He asserts that the demons have resolved to learn from humanity, acknowledging that human ingenuity led to their defeat. He clarifies that he does not aspire to be a demon king who fights, but rather one who continues to learn from humanity's advancements. His determination stems from a desire to honor those who perished in battle. Thor listens intently, struck by the conviction in the Demon King's words. He begins to grasp the policy guiding the demon territory. The Demon King explains further this philosophy underpins their invitation of guests from the Empire. Without such exchanges, the demons would lag behind, unable to match the Empire's progress. Thor realizes that this unique environment allows him to fully utilize his alchemical abilities. Despite the Demon King's trust, Thor still struggles to believe he is recognized as an alchemist and given complete freedom. Yet, inspired by the opportunity, he resolves to craft something useful for the territory. Thor smiles, informing the Demon King that he intends to demonstrate his skills. He offers to create something as a tribute to the king's generosity. The Demon King accepts, expressing his confidence in Thor. Prime Minister Curve interjects, suggesting that Thor must be weary from his journey. The Demon King agrees, instructing Thor to rest. He bows respectfully before departing. The meeting with the Demon King comes to an end. The Demon King strides in, ready to lay down the law to his gathered commanders. Their mission? To chat about their newest visitor, Thor. Each commander, a representation of the demon realm's power, stands before him. The king makes it crystal clear, not a hair on Thor's head is to be harmed. The commanders, knowing better than to mess with the king, nod in agreement. He reminds them that they are a bunch of proud demons who must treat Thor with nothing but the utmost respect. They are to engage with him courteously, learn from him, and extend the same expectations to their subordinates. A skeptical elf commander steps up, raising an eyebrow in doubt about what Thor can teach them. His peers shoot him sharp looks, trying to hush him up, but he just smirks and plows on, proposing they give the Empire guest a taste of the demon army's strength. He suggests showing Thor the full force of their might, just to remind him who's boss. The Demon King exhales sharply, his gaze cold and unwavering. The elf commander's confidence falters, and he stiffens with fear. The king responds curtly, questioning the necessity of instilling fear in Thor. However, he concedes that showcasing the kingdom's strength and magic might not be a poor suggestion. The elf commander hurriedly thanks him, but the king's eyes narrow with discontent. His voice hardens as he declares that any words belittling the Empire will not be tolerated. He reminds them that their ancestors were nearly driven to extinction for underestimating humanity. The commanders stand frozen, the weight of history pressing down on them. The king's fury intensifies. He warns them that countless humans surpass the strength of demons. He commands them to reflect on the Empire's relentless expansion. Al, he asks, can anyone claim there is nothing to learn from humanity when their advancements are evident? Overcome with dread, the elf commander falls to his knees, slamming his forehead to the ground in desperate apology. The king continues, his tone unyielding. Thor is their guest, and his role as an alchemist will be reported directly to them. Should Kerr's appraisal confirm the value of Thor's creations, those items will be implemented in the demon territory, allowing them to learn from the Empire's culture and techniques. The commanders, humbled by the king's words, express their agreement. Despite their acceptance, Kerr recognizes the lingering caution among the commanders regarding Thor's origins. The king, aware of their hesitation, decrees that Thor's abilities must be assessed. He appoints Mabel as Thor's caretaker, entrusting her to oversee him. Grateful for the responsibility, she bows and accepts the task. Kerr, recalling Thor's earlier deeds, mentions Thor's repair of Mabel's pendant. She confirms with a soft smile, acknowledging Thor's skill. The king's eyes narrow as he detects traces of magical silver in the pendant. Mabel nods, affirming his observation. The king's curiosity piques. He wonders aloud if Thor generated the magic silver without materials. Mabel, unwavering, assures him that she witnessed the event firsthand. With a healthy dose of doubt, Kerr steps in to fact-check the claim. Putting his keen appraisal abilities to the test, he gives the pendant a thorough once-over. As the truth comes to light, tiny droplets of sweat form on his forehead. With a slight quiver in his voice, he turns to Mabel and asks if the pendant really has a rich family history. Mabel nods, revealing that the pendant has lost its mojo over the years despite its former glory thanks to a rough life and a damaged center stone. Kerr's next words echo throughout the hall. Thor's alchemy has fully restored the pendant's power. The scene shifts to the past, where Mabel is tormented by other demons who mock and bully her for being a half-elf. They jeer at her, calling her a disgrace to all elves, a worthless being unfit to belong. Their voices rise in unison, demanding that she leave. Mabel jolts awake, her heart pounding as she screams for them to stop. Tears stream down her face as she gasps for breath, slowly realizing that it was just a dream, another haunting fragment from her childhood. She wonders if the day will ever come when she can overcome this lingering fear. Her gaze drifts to her feet, and as she touches them, she finds them as cold as ever, like ice. A thought flickers in her mind, wishing she could conquer not only this sensitivity to the cold, but also the trauma rooted deep within her. Her eyes land on a pair of socks nearby. Despite feeling embarrassed at the thought of wearing them in front of Thor, she resolves to put them on. Meanwhile, Thor stands in awe inside the Demon King's storeroom. An overwhelming mountain of stuff looms before him, well beyond his expectations. At first, he thought the only valuable thing was the broken scabbard, but to his surprise, he uncovers treasures like a shattered shield as he surveys the room. Thor's heart skips a beat with excitement, convinced he's hit the jackpot, but he quickly composed himself, knowing the Demon King didn't let him in here for a leisurely stroll. This opportunity feels more like an early investment, a test of his potential usefulness to the territory. If he fails to meet expectations, the privilege will undoubtedly be revoked. Determined to succeed, Thor resolves to craft something that will astonish everyone. His expression hardens with resolve, but soon a smile tugs at his lips as excitement bubbles up once again. He begins rummaging through the storeroom, eager to decide which materials to use. As he searches, he uncovers numerous valuable objects, and one item in particular catches his eye. It is a book unlike any he has seen before. Flipping through it, he realizes the text is written in a foreign language. Thor speculates that the book was likely discarded because no one could decipher its contents. Upon closer inspection, he concludes that this relic was left behind by heroes from another world. The idea that such a rare artifact lay forgotten in this storeroom astounds him. However, as intriguing as it is, he cannot understand the language, and for a moment, he resigns himself to setting it aside. Just as he prepares to move on, the words on the page suddenly become legible. He freezes, astonished. He wonders if this newfound ability is linked to his passive alchemy skill, a talent that allows him to read item descriptions. It dawns on him that this might also explain why he can now comprehend the language of another world. While perusing the e-commerce catalog, Thor stumbles upon a bunch of discounted goodies that can only be delivered to a place called Nihon. He can't help but imagine Nihon as the name of a heroic summon, leading him to believe this catalog was once in hero territory. As he browsed through, he came across some healing products that made him stop in his tracks. Could these be the secret to the hero's super strength? With each description he read, Thor's amazement soared, his jaw practically touching the ground. It becomes clear to him that with such powerful items, anyone could easily become stronger. The thought ignites his curiosity. Could he possibly recreate such items himself? Suddenly, Mabel's voice calls out from behind, startling him. He jumps, spinning around to see her standing there. She quickly apologized for surprising him, explaining that she had brought tea but received no response when she knocked. Mabel remarks that he seemed deeply engrossed in whatever he was examining and inquires about it. Thor shows her the book, explaining that it originates from another world, and asks if she can read the text. Mabel glances at it, frowning in confusion, informs him that she cannot decipher the writing. Thor nods, having anticipated this. Mabel elaborates that objects like this occasionally find their way into the storeroom. She recounts how the previous Demon King, centuries ago, collected many artifacts that he deemed potentially useful. She coolly points out that the messy room is a shining example of someone's dislike of cleaning. A chill runs down Thor's spine at her words, but her expression softens as she offers him tea with a gentle smile. Grateful, he thanks her for the kind gesture. As they sit, Thor's attention shifts to the socks Mabel is wearing. Sensing his gaze, she chuckles and asks if he is curious about them. She reveals, laughing lightly, that she wears them because she is sensitive to the cold. She explains that this condition stems from poor mana circulation in her body. Thor tilts his head, puzzled. He has never heard of such a condition before. Mabel elaborates that her mana circuits are weak, preventing her from using magic. Although magic is typically an elf's natural talent, she suspects her condition is linked to her human grandmother. Because of this, Mabel was shunned by her own people. However, she found solace in her talent for housekeeping, which led the demon lord to take her in. Hearing this, Thor's eyes well with tears, his heart itching for her. Mabel flushes, flustered that she let her story slip so easily. She quickly reassures him, insisting that she no longer feels troubled by her inability to wield magic. Also, she doesn't hold any grudges against her half-elf roots. Thor, struck by his sudden epiphany, cautiously inquires if Mabel's interest in taking him in stemmed from a nosy curiosity about her grandma's lineage. With a mischievous smile, Mabel confirms his suspicions and confesses that meeting Thor, the first human she's ever encountered, filled her with relief and joy. She admits she's grateful that her first encounter with someone from her grandmother's race turned out to be someone as lovely as Thor. Thor beams warmly in response, delighted by her sentiment. Mabel chuckles softly, lightening the mood. As Thor ponders, he marvels at the demon territory's open-mindedness, realizing they welcome people from all walks of life, much like him. Mabel serves as a prime example of this inclusivity. Suddenly struck by an idea, he turns to Mabel and jokingly asks if she'd be up for assisting with an experiment if she's game. That is, he revisits the book he found earlier, his eyes catching on a description of a recovery item designed for people sensitive to the cold. The item resembles a square tub, large enough to fit both feet, with gleaming letters inscribed on the front. As he reads further, he discovers the item's name, footbath. The more he absorbs the description, the more impressed he becomes. The explanation is thorough and convincing, leaving no doubt in his mind about the item's effectiveness. Realizing what he needs, Thor notes that the construction requires a fire magic stone and a wind magic stone. He immediately thinks of the leftover shields stored in the warehouse as potential sources. Among them, he selects a flame shield, a defensive tool that not only resists attacks but emits fire, and a wind shield capable of deflecting arrows and generating storms. However, both shields are damaged and thus unusable in their current state. Wasting no time, Thor begins the process of softening the shields to extract the magic stones. Drawing on his expertise in alchemy, he effortlessly separates the stones from the shield's body, which he decides to repurpose as material for the footbath. As he prepares to proceed, Mabel enters the room carrying a tub he had requested earlier. Mabel's eyes widen as she recognizes the shields from the warehouse and asks if Thor dismantled them. He smiles, confirming it's the result of his alchemy and thanking her for bringing the tub. Curious, she touches the shield's remains, her excitement evident. Thor chuckles before refocusing on his work, determined to recreate the item described in the hero's book. Activating overall chimney, he commands the creation of a foot bath. A glowing graph appears midair, serving as a blueprint. Carefully refining the materials, he visualizes the structure and function of the magic stones. While he can't perfectly replicate the original due to technological differences, he can mimic its effects by harnessing mana and magic stones. He outlines his plan aloud, using a wind magic stone for vibrations and a flame magic stone for heat. A system notification confirms the item is ready for creation. Thor's face lights up with satisfaction as the foot bath takes shape before him. Since he crafted the item using his skills, he is already aware of its effects. Nonetheless, he reviews the item description and marvels at the results. Thor eagerly presents the foot bath to Mabel, assuring her it will warm her feet. She stares, baffled, and asks if he's already finished. When he confirms, she gasps. Barely 10 minutes have passed. In awe, she wonders if all Imperial alchemists possess such skill. Thor hesitates, admitting he wouldn't know. His family never let him near a workshop, and he's never met another alchemist. Recalling his father's warning against arrogance, he speculates that others might match his abilities. Mabel struggles to believe such talent could be commonplace. He waves off her astonishment, insisting that it's nothing extraordinary. He just casually mentions that he straight up copied something from the hero's world. Mabel's eyes practically pop out of her head at this bombshell. When Thor hands her the foot bath, she's all like, should I really be accepting this hero knockoff? But Thor just flashes her a comforting grin and assures her there's nothing to fret about. He even volunteers to give her a demo and sweetly asks her to lead him to a spot with lots of water. Mabel shrugs and agrees without missing a beat. Thor prepares to explain the item's use, and Curve urges him to continue. Nervously, Thor asks why Curve is there. Curve explains that he couldn't resist seeing how the item actually works. Thor considers it a good thing since it means more people will understand its function, especially since he used their materials to craft it. Thor begins his demonstration by instructing them to pour water into the tub. Next, he guides them to channel mana into a fire magic stone and wait a few minutes. Mabel watches in surprise as steam rises from the water. Thor then asks her to place her feet in the tub. Hesitant but agreeable, she slowly removes her socks, revealing her bare feet. A slight blush tints her cheeks as she dips them into the warm water. Thor nearly forgets to mention the wind magic stone and quickly adds that by channeling mana into it, the vibration function will activate. Mabel follows his instructions, channeling mana into the vine stone. All of a sudden, a delightful mix of air and water tickles her feet, causing a slight embarrassment-induced squirm and a mysterious squeal to escape her lips. Curve inquires about her reaction, to which Thor calmly attributes it to the magical powers of the stone. Blushing profusely, she confesses that the sensation is surprisingly enjoyable, basking in the warmth and relaxation of the foot bath. She goes under an unexpected transformation as if she's been transported to a rejuvenating hot spring. The foot bath begins alleviating her sensitivity to the cold. Concerned, Curve asks if she's all right. Still blushing furiously, Mabel reassures him she's fine and adds that her mana circuits have started functioning properly. Shocked, Curve demands to know if Thor crafted the item based on knowledge from the Another World book. Thor confirms this and nonchalantly explains its origins. Intrigued, Curve remarks that while he is aware of the heroes, there are no known records of them utilizing items from the Healthy Goods book. He points out that the book's name suggests it was merely meant to relieve fatigue. Curious, he questions why the item has had such a profound effect on Mabel's mana. Thor responds casually, stating that it is, after all, an item belonging to heroes. Curve is taken aback by his nonchalance, prompting Thor to elaborate. He suggests that heroes, beings of immense mana and unparalleled skill, must have possessed more than just the book. The possibility that they had access to other advanced items leaves Curve stunned. Stunned and sprawled on the floor, Curve can't wrap his head around how a random item from a mysterious book could solve Mabel's mana issue when top healers in the Demon King's realm struggled. Thor, sensing Curve's disbelief, nods knowingly at the incredible feat, attributing it to the next-level tech of the legendary heroes. Meanwhile, Mabel, still catching her breath, is glowing with the after-effects of the miraculous item's restorative touch. She's feeling ticklish and is eager to wrap up this foot bath. Curve inquires about her well-being, to which she responds with a sweet grin, claiming to be rejuvenated and boasting about her mana channels being in tip-top shape. Relieved, Curve suggests she try using magic, believing she might now be capable. She hesitates, convinced it's impossible. She had given up on that hope long ago. Trembling, she clenches her fist, trying to believe things might be different. Hesitantly, She chants the Dark Wind spell, and to their surprise, it works. The wind whips around them, unsettling the area. Everyone stands in shock as she watches the swirling magic. Thor steps forward, concerned, and asks if she's all right. Tears pool in her eyes as old memories resurface, memories of being despised and dismissed as worthless by those around her. Without warning, she embraces Thor tightly, her voice trembling as she thanks him. Tears spill as she confesses she lied earlier. She had always feared never being able to use magic, tormented in her village for her inability as an elf. But now she feels she can finally help the demon lord's cause and others through magic. She calls Thor her savior. Thor, caught in an uncomfortable position, struggles to endure the overwhelming situation. Curve, noticing his plight, calmly informs Mabel that Thor appears to be in distress. Realizing her mistake, she quickly apologizes and releases him. Blushing, Thor catches his breath and reassures her that it's all right, offering his gratitude. Curve, eyeing Thor with suspicion, questions what exactly he is thanking her for. Thor hurriedly regains his composure and shifts the topic, asking if it is only her mana that has been restored. Mabel, smiling warmly, responds that her feet feel warm as well, describing the sensation as incredible. She no longer feels cold. Thor beams with satisfaction, remarking that this is precisely the outcome he desires when people use his items. He begins explaining the mechanics of the foot bath to Mabel, but Kurt interrupts, asserting that the item will fall under the management of the Demon King's territory. Thor is perplexed, as he had crafted the item specifically for Mabel. Curve, sensing his unease, acknowledges Thor's concerns and clarifies that Mabel is free to use it if she desires. However, he reminds Thor that this item enhances a person's magic and questions what might occur should it fall into the wrong hands. Thor, recognizing the potential risk, refrains from arguing further, knowing that his resistance would only place Mabel in jeopardy. Reluctantly, he surrenders the item. Curve adds another point, informing Thor that the territory will purchase the item from him at a fair price. He asks if gold coins are acceptable, as they serve as the standard currency in the region. Thor's confusion deepens, and Curve mirrors his puzzlement. Stammering, Thor admits his disbelief. He had merely created items he desired, yet now he is being paid for them. Unconsciously, his language slips, prompting a bewildered glance from Curve. Realizing his mistake, Thor quickly apologizes. He explains that in the Empire, the use of his skills had been factored into his modest salary. He never had the freedom to utilize his talents as he pleased and was bound by strict orders. Yet here, things seem different. Not only can he reap the rewards of his work, but he can also experience the fulfillment of crafting items according to his own designs. If this is truly how things will be, then he welcomes it wholeheartedly. Thor speaks again, this time asserting that he does not wish to receive gold coins as compensation. Instead, he requests magic stones, explaining that they are essential for his next endeavor. Curve, momentarily stunned, questions whether Thor realizes the potential danger of utilizing magic stones in such a manner, suggesting that his actions could inadvertently lead to the creation of weapons. Thor reassures him, vowing to submit a detailed petition outlining his intended use of the stones. He proceeds to explain his unlimited magic stones plan, detailing how the demon territory will benefit from the magic items he crafts, while he, in return, will receive magic stones and necessary materials. Curve's expression grows serious as he asks if Thor harbors no apprehensions about his creations being utilized by non-humans. Thor, visibly confused, responds by questioning why that should concern him. He asserts that there is no purpose in crafting items that remain unused. His goal is simple, to see his items widely employed and to gather feedback. One day, Thor declares he will craft items that surpass even those wielded by heroes. Mabel and Curve exchange incredulous glances. Finally, Curve informs Thor that he will present the matter to the king. Demon Lord Ruki is shaken to discover that Mabel is now rocking some serious magic skills, thanks to an item made by none other than Thor. Curve backs up the story, saying he saw it with his own two eyes. Ruki, in disbelief, spills the tea that Mabel's magic malady was supposedly untreatable after years of failed attempts by top-notch healers, yet Curve claims Thor solved it in a hot minute. Curve elaborates, explaining that Thor employed two distinct types of magic to effect the cure. Ruki, narrowing his eyes, remarks that the foot bath Curve speaks of must utilize wind and fire magic stones. Curve nods, confirming that this is indeed the case. In simple terms, Thor had dissolved wind and fire into water. Lord Ruki finds the notion incomprehensible, deeming such a phenomenon impossible. However, Curve discloses that Thor's insight stemmed from Mabel's nature as an elf with an affinity for water. Given this, the mana dissolved in water would naturally be absorbed by her with ease. Contemplating the mechanics, Ruki concludes that Thor's abilities are formidable. He had even considered such a possibility. Curve, cautiously speculating, suggests that Thor may very well be one of the legendary alchemists. Rookie dismisses the notion, asserting that Thor had merely replicated an existing hero's item. Curve concedes the point but nervously adds that, according to the records, the original item contained no enchantments or enhancements. The ancient scriptures documented strengthening and healing magic, yet there was no mention of any buffs. Curve admits he has never encountered an item capable of improving one's circulation and finds himself bewildered. What kind of alchemist resorts to using a simple tub of hot water? This revelation causes him to momentarily lose confidence in his role as Prime Minister. Rookie, equally perplexed, decides to leave the matter be and instructs Curve to return the foot bath to Mabel. Curve hesitates, questioning if Rookie is certain. Rookie affirms his decision, emphasizing that Mabel is a cherished subordinate and he refuses to deprive her of something beneficial. Curve further reveals that Mabel places considerable trust in Thor, a rare occurrence, as she seldom extends such faith to humans. Rookie is visibly puzzled. Curve explains that Mabel had long been shunned by her village, and even after arriving at the castle, it took considerable time for her to open up and trust them. With this in mind, Curve puts forth a proposal, suggesting that Rookie consider allowing Mabel to marry Thor. Such a union would provide Thor with a reason to remain in their territory. Curve even ventures that they should actively encourage Mabel to pursue the idea. Rookie, flustered, immediately dismisses the notion, stammering that such an outcome is unthinkable. Curve recoils at Rookie's outburst, but Rookie presses on, declaring that he will not allow Mabel to be deceived by a human. Just because a truce exists does not mean that they, as demons, are inferior to humanity. Curve attempts to pacify him, but Rookie remains unmoved. Rising from his throne, Rookie resolves to judge Thor personally.
Here I am.